stars above flickered with a faint, cold light as the first alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere. They came in silence, their massive hulks blocking out the sun for a moment as they descended. The invaders, confident in their advanced technology and superior strength, believed they had the perfect plan. They had faced many species across the galaxy, subjugating civilizations without breaking a sweat. They thought Earth, a relatively unknown planet in the vast expanse of space, would be just another conquest. They were wrong. For the first time in their history, they would come face to face with a force they never anticipated: humanity. The aliens landed, and without hesitation, their war machines began to activate, sending waves of mechanical death towards cities across the globe. The inhabitants, mere ants in comparison to the gargantuan invaders, would be crushed beneath their boots, or so they thought. What the aliens didn't know, what they never could have predicted, was the unyielding spirit of the humans they were about to face. When humans are pushed to the edge, when they are backed into a corner, they don't simply fall in defeat. They rise. They fight. And they fight like no other species in the galaxy. The aliens, with all their advanced weaponry and countless victories across countless worlds, quickly learned that underestimating humanity was their greatest mistake. As the invasion began, humanity's leaders acted swiftly, uniting the planet under one banner. The world's most powerful nations, previously divided by petty borders, put aside their differences, knowing that this wasn't just about territory anymore. It was about survival. Every corner of the Earth, from the remote deserts to the bustling metropolises, came alive with the fierce, unstoppable force of people united in the face of annihilation. But it wasn't just the military forces that responded. It was everyone. Civilians, scientists, teachers, doctors, farmers. The human race showed a unity that the invaders could never have predicted. No matter how much technology or weaponry they had, they were not prepared for what humanity was capable of when they fought for something greater than themselves. The story of the war between Earth and the invaders is one of defiance, of survival against overwhelming odds. The invaders quickly realized that humans were not just stubborn. No, humanity was something much more dangerous. They had an ability to adapt, to think creatively in ways the aliens had never seen before. And every time the aliens thought they had the upper hand, humanity found a way to turn the tide. It started with small victories. The first alien warship that crashed in the Nevada desert was recovered not by the invaders, but by a group of engineers, scientists, and a handful of military personnel. They didn't sit around and wait for orders. No, they dissected the wreckage, reverse-engineered alien technology, and used it to build their own weapons. The aliens thought they were the superior force. But humanity wasn't just fighting with brute strength. They were outsmarting their invaders, using every resource available to them. The more battles humanity fought, the more alien technology they gained. They adapted quickly, learning to harness the very weapons the invaders had relied on. The war didn't just stay in the cities. It spread to the stars. Earth's forces began to fight back in space, using captured alien ships to strike at the heart of the invaders' fleets. In a matter of months, the aliens had been pushed back from Earth's atmosphere, forced to retreat to their ships, scrambling to regroup. But it was too late. The fight had already shifted in humanity's favor. But what truly stunned the invaders wasn't just humanity's technological ingenuity. It was the sheer ferocity of the human will to survive. The aliens quickly discovered that humanity didn't simply fight to win. they fought to protect. Families fought for each other. Neighbors fought side by side. Whole communities rose up in the face of disaster, their hearts united by a singular purpose: to protect their home. The invaders quickly came to realize that this planet, this small, seemingly insignificant world, was not like any other. They had never encountered a species with the same kind of raw determination. As the days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to months, the alien invaders realized their great mistake. They had underestimated humans, thinking them to be weak, thinking they could crush them like they had done with countless other species. What they didn't realize was that the true strength of humanity didn't lie in weapons or armies. It lay in the collective spirit of the human race. The aliens had thought they could conquer Earth by force. They hadn't accounted for humanity's ability to come together, to fight not just for themselves, but for everyone who called this planet home. Now, with their forces scattered and morale shattered, the aliens were on the verge of retreating. Their defeat seemed inevitable. The final battle would soon unfold, and it was clear that humanity would stand victorious. But even with all their triumphs, humanity knew that there was still one final hurdle, a showdown with the alien leader, the one who had orchestrated this invasion. And that would be a battle unlike any other. The question remained, would humanity's drive to protect be enough to bring this war to an end? Could they defeat the alien leader, who was rumored to be more powerful than any of the invaders they had faced before? The fate of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, rested in the hands of humanity's greatest champions. But as the final battle approached, there was an eerie silence that hung in the air. No one knew what the alien leader would do when faced with the last of Earth's resistance. And just as the first signals of the final battle began to take shape, humanity braced itself for one last fight. But one thing was certain: no matter what happened next, the invaders would never, ever forget the lesson they had learned the hard way. Don't mess with humans. The tension on Earth was palpable. Every government, every faction, every group, large or small, was now united in a single cause: survival. It was hard to believe that just a few months ago, the planet was divided, its nations squabbling over resources and borders. But now, with their backs against the wall, humanity had come together in ways no one thought possible. The war had escalated quickly, with alien fleets bombarding cities and making strikes against military bases. The invaders were efficient, precise, and cold. They had no empathy for the species they encountered. Humanity's resistance was a mere inconvenience to them. But what they didn't count on was the fire that burned within the human spirit. As Earth's military forces organized, a strange new sense of purpose settled over the planet. The most unlikely heroes had emerged: scientists, former teachers, farmers, even teenagers, each contributing in their own way to the war effort. The sense of unity was everywhere. The war wasn't just about weapons. It was about minds working together to outsmart the alien technology that had once seemed invincible. But even as humans managed to steal alien tech and adapt it for their own use, a darker truth loomed over them. The invaders were not just trying to conquer Earth. They were trying to destroy it. The aliens' primary goal was not occupation, but complete eradication. Earth's resources, its very existence, was a threat to their empire. The aliens viewed humans as little more than insects to be wiped away, a nuisance in the grand scheme of the universe. They had done it before, to countless other civilizations, and they believed Earth's fate would be no different. The first wave of destruction was brutal. Cities fell, entire populations wiped out in the blink of an eye. What was left behind was a world in chaos, devastation everywhere, but with a stubborn hope clinging to the human heart. The aliens thought they had broken humanity's spirit with their initial strikes, but they had underestimated the resilience of a species that had fought for survival from the very beginning. Human history was a history of overcoming adversity, of facing impossible odds and still pushing forward. The global military, working with makeshift technology and alien resources, began to push back, but not without heavy losses. The front lines were shifting constantly as humans adapted faster than the invaders could react. Tactical brilliance was born from necessity bombings, guerrilla warfare, ambushes. No military strategist could have predicted how quickly humanity would turn the tide. Still, despite these successes, something darker lingered in the shadows. As the aliens regrouped, a new strategy emerged, one that no one expected. The alien leader, known only as Vrakon, had been quiet up until now. His presence loomed over the entire campaign. He had watched humanity's efforts and learned from their unpredictable methods. He wasn't like the others in his fleet. Vrakon was a strategist, not a brute force conqueror. The whispers among humans were unsettling. Vrakon was coming. And when Vrakon made his first move, it was devastating. It wasn't a direct attack. It was something far more insidious. Earth's most vulnerable populations, the civilians who had thought themselves safe, suddenly found themselves targeted by an unseen enemy. It was as if the very land beneath their feet turned against them. Vrakon had unleashed an insidious biological weapon, an engineered plague that spread faster than anyone could imagine. Cities that were once strongholds of human resistance were crippled in days. Entire regions were quarantined, but it was too late for many. This new threat took the humans by surprise. They had prepared for battle, prepared for ships in the sky and bombs from the invaders, but they hadn't anticipated an invisible weapon. In the chaos, many cities fell without a shot fired. The very ground became a battleground, not with guns, but with disease. The toll was unimaginable, and it seemed as if the aliens had once again found a way to undermine humanity's resolve. However, the human race was far from finished. As devastating as this new weapon was, it brought humanity's greatest strength to the forefront, their capacity to adapt and innovate. Doctors, researchers, and biologists quickly turned their attention to the disease, racing against time to find a cure or at least a vaccine. It became clear that this was no ordinary disease. It was engineered. It was as if the aliens wanted to make humans weaker, to force them to fight, not with weapons, but with their very survival. Amid the plague's spread, one surprising discovery was made. Humans were resistant to the disease. Their immune systems, although fragile in some, had adapted in ways the invaders had not expected. A group of scientists uncovered the truth: the plague had been designed for alien biology, not for humans. Earth's diversity of immune responses, its constantly evolving genetic pool, meant that humans had a chance to survive where the aliens' calculations had failed. That was the first turning point in the war, the first glimmer of hope in a seemingly hopeless situation. But while humanity worked tirelessly to overcome the plague, they knew the battle wasn't over. The final confrontation was looming, and Vrakon had set his sights on Earth's last line of defense, the remaining military forces, now in disarray after the biological attack. Vrakon knew something humanity didn't. Their strength wasn't in their weapons, their technology, or their military. The true strength of humanity lay in their unity and their unrelenting will to fight. The aliens had seen it firsthand in small skirmishes. where humans had fought with everything they had even when they were outmatched. But they never expected that the desperation would fuel something even more dangerous, a transformation in the human fighting spirit. On the battlefield, it became clear that the stakes had risen. The humans weren't just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to protect the future of their world. They weren't just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for every person who had ever lived, for every generation yet to come. That was what set them apart from the cold, calculating invaders. Humans didn't fight for conquest or power. They fought for something far more precious: the right to exist, the right to breathe free from oppression. As the aliens drew closer to Earth's final strongholds, the pressure was unbearable. But even in the darkest hours, humanity refused to bow down. They had tasted victory before, and now they would fight for their home with everything they had left. But the real test was still ahead: the final confrontation with Vraken. Vraken had not only underestimated humans in their battles on Earth, but he had also failed to understand their greatest strength. When pushed to the brink, humans did not crumble. They rose, they adapted, and they fought with a vengeance that no alien force could ever match. The time was drawing near. As the final showdown approached, humanity's last hope rested on their resilience, their ingenuity, and the unbreakable spirit that had carried them through this impossible war. The final days before the battle were a blur of tension and uncertainty. Earth's forces were stretched thin, its resources almost depleted. The cities that had once been thriving metropolises were now little more than charred ruins. Military leaders gathered in what remained of the underground bunkers, huddled together, trying to coordinate their efforts. It felt as though the entire weight of the planet was resting on their shoulders. But despite the overwhelming odds, there was no surrender, no thought of retreat. They would stand their ground, and they would fight. In the midst of the chaos, the unity that had grown among humans over the past few months became even more apparent. They had learned, adapted, and fought side by side, regardless of race, nationality, or background. It was a collective force that had been forged in the fires of conflict, and now they were more than ready to face their invaders. Their survival, however, had been the catalyst for something more profound. Humans had uncovered their greatest asset: the ability to work together, to overcome the impossible. It was this strength, this unparalleled resilience, that Vraken had misjudged. The alien forces, for all their might, were still facing something they had never anticipated: the human capacity for unpredictability. The war had forced humanity to think outside the box, to adapt in ways that no one had ever expected. The human mind, ever inventive, had come up with new technologies, new strategies, some of which had begun to turn the tide. But the real power lay in the very essence of what made humanity dangerous: the refusal to be broken. As the last human strongholds held their ground, something shifted in the air. The tension grew unbearable. The alien fleet was closing in, and time was running out. It was clear now that this was the final stand. There would be no more opportunities for retreat, no more room for mistakes. The forces that had rallied together on Earth had one last chance to make their mark, to show the universe that they would not be erased. Within the war rooms, humans moved with an urgency that spoke to their desperation and determination. There was no longer time for careful plans. This would be an all-out assault. The remnants of Earth's military, battered and bruised, had now united in a way that made them more formidable than any of them could have imagined. The final pieces of the defense were being put into place. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched, But there was something else at play here, sheer willpower. Vraken, on the other hand, had grown confident in his victory. The human resistance had been a nuisance, but nothing more. He had seen how quickly their forces had crumbled when his bioweapon had hit, how the cities fell apart under the weight of the disease. To him, Earth's final defenses were nothing but a formality, a small inconvenience before he would finish the task that had been set in motion so long ago. Yet, he had not anticipated the one thing that no one else had expected, the emergence of humanity's ultimate weapon. They were the most primal, the most unpredictable force Earth had ever produced, and they had been waiting for this moment. The war beasts, those genetically altered warriors, had long been in the shadows of humanity's struggle, part of a classified project to develop the perfect soldier, part human, part animal, all instinct and ferocity. They had been kept in containment for the majority of the war, only released in the direst of situations. But now, that moment had come. The war beasts were ready to take the battlefield. The concept was simple, fusing human intelligence with the physical capabilities of the most formidable creatures on Earth. The result was something beyond terrifying soldiers, with the strength, agility, and senses of predators, but with the strategic minds of humans. They were ruthless, efficient, and, most importantly, they were driven by the same fierce desire to protect their world. When the first war beasts were unleashed, it was as though a switch had been flipped. The alien forces, still reeling from the last wave of resistance, had no idea what was coming. What had once seemed like a losing battle for humanity now had a new hope. The war beasts tore through the alien lines, their strength and speed unmatched. They were a force of nature, a whirlwind of destruction that could not be stopped. But even as the war beasts rampaged through the alien ranks, Vraken remained unshaken. He had fought countless battles, conquered civilizations much larger than Earth, and nothing had ever stopped him before. He watched from his command ship, a sense of arrogance still clinging to him. His forces were still vast, his technology superior. The war beasts were powerful, yes, but they were just one part of a larger strategy. Vraken wasn't worried. Yet, there was a nagging feeling, an unease that lingered in the back of his mind. And then it happened. Without warning, Earth's final weapon, something that had been kept hidden for the entire war, was activated. The last-minute technological breakthrough that humanity had been working on, something no one had expected, had been completed. A fleet of new, human-designed ships, small, fast, and equipped with devastating energy weapons, launched into space. These ships, designed with a blend of stolen alien technology and human innovation, engaged the alien fleet in a way no one could have predicted. It was a decisive blow, a shockwave that rippled through the alien forces. The fleet, caught off guard by the sudden turn of events, began to falter. The human ships, though fewer in number, fought with an unmatched intensity, catching the invaders in a pincer movement. For the first time in months, the aliens began to retreat. Vraken could see the tide of battle slipping away from him. But even as the human forces gained the upper hand, they knew this was only the beginning. Vraken, cornered and growing desperate, had one last move to make. The war was far from over, and the outcome was still uncertain. The final confrontation was coming, the ultimate clash between the invaders and those who refused to let their world slip into darkness. It was a race against time, a battle that would decide the fate of Earth, and the stakes had never been higher. The real question remained, would humanity's strength be enough to defeat the invaders once and for all? Or would the war beast's ferocity and the might of the human forces be too little, Too late. Just as victory seemed within reach, an unexpected twist shattered humanity's fragile hope. The alien fleet, battered and retreating, suddenly shifted its formation. Vraken, in a last-ditch effort to regain control, activated the one weapon he had kept hidden, a weapon so powerful it could annihilate not just Earth, but the entire solar system. The news spread like wildfire through Earth's command centers, leaving military strategists scrambling to process the information. It was a device that could strip a planet of its resources, turning it into nothing more than a lifeless husk. This was no ordinary weapon. It was a doomsday device, an ultimate contingency plan for the alien race in the event of failure. The bomb, designed to be deployed in the heart of the solar system, would wipe out humanity's civilization in an instant. With Vraken's desperation growing, he was willing to destroy everything to prevent his defeat. The humans were not only fighting for their survival, they were now fighting against time itself. The stakes had been raised beyond anything they could have imagined. Humanity's response was swift, but the reality of their situation was undeniable. The war beasts, once a symbol of humanity's newfound strength, had their limitations. Their power was unmatched on the ground, but they had no means to stop a weapon that operated on a planetary scale. The human fleet, too, had gained an upper hand in the battle against the invaders, but they were still few in number compared to the immense alien force. With the bomb now in play, Earth had become a ticking time bomb itself. Strategists worked tirelessly to figure out how to intercept the weapon before it could be deployed, but the alien forces were closing in. The tension was palpable, and Earth's leaders knew they were running out of time. In the midst of this chaos, an unlikely alliance began to form, an alliance between the humans and the remnants of a once neutral alien faction that had quietly opposed Vraken's reign of terror. These dissident forces, motivated by their desire to see the tyrant overthrown, provided humanity with crucial intelligence about the alien technology, revealing a weakness in the doomsday weapons design. It was the smallest sliver of hope. With no time to waste, Earth's military leaders and their new allies devised a daring plan. A small, elite team of soldiers, both human and alien, would infiltrate the heart of the alien fleet, where the doomsday device was hidden. Their mission, to disable the weapon before it could be activated. The risk was monumental. The alien fleet was heavily guarded, and no one knew for sure how the device would function or if they could even approach it without triggering a catastrophic event. As the team prepared for their dangerous mission, humanity's final gamble hung in the balance. The war beasts, still wreaking havoc on the alien forces on the ground, were called upon to provide a distraction, drawing the enemy's attention away from the infiltrators. Their mission was simple: keep the alien forces engaged and off balance long enough for the infiltration team to get close to the weapon's location. The tension was unbearable. Each soldier knew they might not return, but the alternative, the destruction of Earth, was simply too great to ignore. This wasn't just about fighting for survival. This was about ensuring the future of humanity itself. If the infiltration mission failed, all would be lost. The war beasts, in their fury and strength, could hold the line for only so long. The clock was ticking, and every second that passed brought the alien fleet closer to activating their devastating weapon. The final moments before the mission were filled with uncertainty. Leaders gave speeches, soldiers said their goodbyes, and families clung to the hope that their loved ones would return. But even in the face of unimaginable danger, one thing was clear: humanity would not go down without a fight. The infiltration team launched, moving quickly and silently through the wreckage of Earth's final defense line. They navigated the enemy ships with precision, using the alien technology they had stolen to stay off radar and avoid detection. It was a tense, high-stakes operation, every wrong move meaning instant death. The war beasts fought valiantly, their monstrous forms cutting through the enemy with brutal force, but they knew this wasn't a battle they could win forever. The deeper the team ventured into the heart of the alien fleet, the more dangerous it became. With every step, the tension built. They had to rely on every ounce of training, every shred of humanity's ingenuity, to outsmart the alien forces that had been hunting them for so long. As they approached the weapon's core, the security systems grew increasingly sophisticated. The team faced near impossible odds, traps, ambushes, and alien sentries waiting in the shadows. Yet, they pressed forward, knowing the fate of Earth rested on their shoulders. Meanwhile, back on the surface, the war beasts continued their rampage, their raw power making them the perfect distraction. The aliens, caught between dealing with the brutal, relentless assault from the war beasts and holding the line against the human military, were stretched thin. It wasn't enough to stop them completely, but it slowed their response. Every second mattered. The infiltration team reached the heart of the alien ship, an enormous, heavily guarded command center where the doomsday device sat, waiting to be activated. But as they began their final approach, they realized that something was terribly wrong. The weapon had already been activated. A deep, resonating hum filled the room, and the countdown had begun. In that moment, the mission shifted. It was no longer about disabling the device, it was about stopping it from destroying Earth before they had the chance to escape. The team split up, with some attempting to disable the countdown while others fought off the remaining alien soldiers. The tension was unbearable as the minutes ticked down, each second threatening the complete annihilation of everything humanity had fought for. In a shocking twist, it was revealed that the countdown wasn't simply tied to the weapon, it was linked to a massive energy surge that could destroy the entire solar system. The team had one chance left to stop it, but as they worked frantically, they realized the only way to do so was to activate the device from within its core. And the moment they did, there would be no turning back. Time was running out, and the true scale of the battle was becoming clear. It was no longer just about saving Earth, it was about saving the entire galaxy. As the team reached the core of the alien weapon, the magnitude of their task became painfully clear. The countdown had already reached the final minute, and every motion felt like it could be the last. The hum of the device grew louder, its ominous sound reverberating through the walls. The team's eyes locked on the countdown timer, each tick a reminder of how little time they had left. The plan had been simple enough: disable the device before it reached its final activation stage. But as they approached the heart of the weapon, the reality of the situation became more complicated. They were deep inside the alien mothership, the walls lined with unknown technology, pulsing with energy, and the entire ship was alive with tension. The weapon was no longer just a threat to Earth. It had been designed to obliterate the entire solar system, leaving nothing but dust and debris. The team split into two groups. One continued to hack into the alien systems, trying desperately to access the countdown mechanism, while the other stood guard, fighting off the relentless alien soldiers who had been alerted to their presence. Every blast of gunfire, every clash of weapons, sent ripples through the already fragile atmosphere of the alien ship. The hacking team worked furiously, the seconds dwindling down as sweat poured down their faces. They were on the edge of exhaustion, and the pressure was unbearable. Just as they thought they might get a break, the system's defense activated. The alien ship responded with a surge of energy, locking down the critical control systems. A series of alarms blared, signaling that the countdown was accelerating, not slowing. The team was trapped. Outside, the war beasts continued to battle against the relentless alien forces, keeping them distracted just long enough for the infiltration team to do their work. But the situation was becoming dire. The war beasts were powerful, but even they could not fight an entire fleet of alien soldiers forever. The alien forces were regrouping, preparing for a final push. Earth's last line of defense was crumbling, and time was running out. As the hacking team fought to override the weapon's systems, they realized something shocking. The weapon wasn't merely tied to a countdown, it was drawing power directly from the core of the mothership itself. It was integrated into the very life force of the ship. The more the team tried to disable it, the more the ship resisted, its systems actively fighting back with violent bursts of energy. The realization hit them like a ton of bricks. There was no simple way to stop it. In those final, desperate moments, the team's leader made an agonizing decision. They had to shut down the weapon from within the core itself. It meant risking their lives, but there was no other way to stop the countdown. The others hesitated for a moment, but the urgency was undeniable. Without this, humanity would be destroyed, and there would be no tomorrow. They activated the emergency override, which sent them into the heart of the alien ship's core. The intense heat and strange alien technology surrounded them as they made their way to the heart of the weapon. With the countdown now in its final seconds, they knew they were racing against time. They had one chance, just one, to stop this nightmare. The final moments were chaos. The team scrambled to input the override commands, but every action seemed to trigger a new defense mechanism, each more deadly than the last. Just as they completed the final sequence, the system began to reject the override, and an explosion of energy filled the room. The shockwave knocked everyone to the ground, and the ship's alarms screamed louder than ever. The countdown had reached its final second. With no other choice, the leader made a heart-stopping decision. They manually activated the core overload. The ship shuddered violently as energy flooded the weapon's systems. It was a desperate gamble, one that could either destroy the weapon or destroy everything. The team braced for impact, knowing that if they succeeded, they would likely die in the process. There was no escaping the blast radius. In that instant, a flash of brilliant light consumed everything. The entire ship erupted in a brilliant explosion of energy, sending shockwaves throughout the solar system. Earth's atmosphere trembled, and the battle outside paused as the energy wave radiated outwards. The war beasts, caught in the chaos of the explosion, were flung back, but they survived. The alien fleet, already weakened, was utterly decimated in the explosion. What had once seemed like a force of unstoppable power was now reduced to rubble, leaving nothing but dust in its wake. For a brief moment, there was silence. Then, slowly, the communications channels opened and Earth's leaders received the news. The weapon was gone. The solar system had been saved. But as humanity began to celebrate, the true cost of the victory became clear. The infiltration team had given everything to destroy the weapon, and now their fate was sealed. They had sacrificed their lives to ensure humanity's survival. Their families would never see them again. Their names would go down in history as the unsung heroes who prevented the annihilation of Earth and the solar system. Yet, in the aftermath, something unexpected occurred. As Earth's forces celebrated their hard-fought victory, a message came through. It wasn't from Earth or any of the surviving alien factions. It was from an unknown source, an alien race they had never encountered. The message was brief, but its words echoed with the weight of profound meaning. You've won this battle, but the war is far from over. The final twist left humanity with more questions than answers. Who were these new enemies? And why had they chosen now to reveal themselves? The victory against Vraken and his fleet was monumental, but it had opened the door to an even greater unknown challenge. The stakes had just been raised once again, and the universe was far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. As humanity prepared for whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain: they had learned an invaluable lesson. Never underestimate humans. The strength, ingenuity, and resolve of humanity had turned the tide in an impossible battle, and they would be ready for whatever the future held. The story of Earth's fight against the alien invaders was far from over. The battle for the galaxy was just beginning. I understand your request, but I'm unable to provide 10,000 words in one response. However, I can continue the story and gradually work toward wrapping it up in a satisfying way over a few responses. I'll start with a continuation of the current plot. Let's move forward from the point of uncertainty about the new alien threat. The message from the unknown alien race sent a ripple of shock through Earth's leadership. No one had expected an external threat to rise so soon after the brutal battle with Vraken and his forces. The victory they had just celebrated was bittersweet. They had saved their world, but the unknown alien race hinted that this was only the beginning. The next few days were filled with frantic meetings, strategy sessions, and analysis. Earth was on high alert, preparing for whatever was to come. The alien message had been cryptic, and despite their best efforts, Earth's top scientists could not decrypt its true meaning. It was clear that the new threat was far more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced, even with the war beasts' help. The war beasts, after all, had been instrumental in securing the victory over Vraken. Their strength, agility, and brute force had turned the tide in Earth's favor. But this new enemy was something else entirely, something far more intelligent, organized, and, if the message was to be believed, patient. Despite the overwhelming uncertainty, Earth's leaders decided to push forward. They rallied their forces, integrating the war beasts into the defense forces, making them part of a new, unified planetary military alliance. This alliance would stand against whatever came next. The Earth military, now armed with the technology salvaged from the alien mothership, was vastly more powerful than it had been before. And yet, as they prepared, there was an undercurrent of unease. They were about to face a threat they couldn't even understand fully. Meanwhile, among the ranks of Earth's military, there was a group of scientists and engineers who had taken it upon themselves to continue their work with the alien technology. They believed that if they could understand the technology better, it could be the key to repelling the new threat. In the weeks following the battle, they worked tirelessly, building prototypes, developing countermeasures, and refining weaponry. But even with all their progress, they knew it would take time. There was one scientist, in particular, who had become obsessed with deciphering the alien message. Dr. Helena Scott, a leading expert in extraterrestrial languages, spent sleepless nights analyzing every detail of the transmission. Every time she thought she was close to a breakthrough, the message shifted in ways that made no sense. It was a puzzle, and the pieces were slipping through her fingers. As Dr. Scott worked, she began to notice something strange. The alien message, though it seemed like a warning, had an underlying rhythm. It was almost as if the aliens were trying to communicate something beyond just a threat. They weren't merely saying, "We are coming." No, it felt more like an invitation. An invitation to what? A challenge? A trial? At the same time, strange phenomena began to occur across the world. Small, unexplained disruptions in power grids, odd signals detected from deep space, and more frequent sightings of unidentified craft in Earth's atmosphere. The people of Earth, already reeling from the aftermath of war, were becoming increasingly nervous. Were the aliens preparing for an invasion, or were they simply watching, waiting for humanity to make its next move? As the days turned into weeks, tensions continued to rise. Earth's defenses were ready, but they were still operating in the dark. Without knowing what the aliens wanted or how they would strike, all Earth could do was wait. The war beasts were placed on high alert, and special operations teams were formed to investigate the strange occurrences around the globe. These teams would scour the planet, looking for clues, while also preparing for a possible full-scale invasion. The months dragged on. There were no direct confrontations, but there were many skirmishes. The aliens seemed to be testing humanity, probing its defenses, but never fully committing to a full-scale attack. Yet, it was clear that something was building. Earth's leaders knew the confrontation was inevitable. Every passing day felt like a countdown. It wasn't until an uncharted spacecraft appeared in Earth's orbit that everything changed. The ship was massive, larger than anything humanity had ever seen, dwarfing even the alien mothership that had been destroyed. The war beasts were the first to be dispatched to intercept it, but they reported back with disturbing news. The ship wasn't hostile. It wasn't attacking. Instead, it seemed to be waiting. And inside it, there was something that Earth's military could not comprehend. As a team of Earth's best and brightest scientists boarded the vessel, they discovered something both shocking and incredible. The ship was not the home of the enemy, but rather a relic of an ancient civilization that had disappeared millennia ago. The message from the aliens was not a threat at all. It was a call for help. The alien race that had warned humanity was, in fact, facing its own extinction, and they had come to Earth for refuge, for salvation. The alien civilization, known as the Voktor, had once been a powerful race that spanned galaxies. But now, they were dying, decimated by a ruthless enemy that had hunted them across the stars. The Voktor had been searching for a new home, a new planet where they could rebuild. And their message to Earth had been misunderstood. They had been warning humanity, but they had also been pleading for assistance. In exchange for sanctuary, the Voktor offered their advanced technology and knowledge. They were experts in bioengineering, weapons design, and interstellar travel. But they needed Earth's help to survive. The Voktor were not an invading force, but refugees seeking a way to rebuild what had been lost. Humanity now faced an impossible choice. They had already won one battle, but at what cost? Would they help the Voktor rebuild, knowing that they were risking the wrath of the unknown enemy that had destroyed their civilization? Or would they turn their backs on a race in need, choosing instead to protect Earth from a threat they barely understood? As the leaders of Earth deliberated, the war beasts, those fierce warriors who had been humanity's greatest ally, remained silent. They, too, had their doubts. Could they trust these aliens? Was the offer genuine, or was this yet another trick? The stakes were higher than ever, and the consequences of this decision would shape the future of Earth for generations to come. And then, just as the debate reached a boiling point, a new message arrived. This one was not from the Voktor, but from their enemies, the ones who had driven them to the brink of extinction. The message was clear and chilling. You've made your choice. You've allied with the Volktor. Prepare for the consequences. Humanity's darkest fears had just been realized. The true enemy, the one who had destroyed the Volktor and threatened to unravel the fabric of the galaxy, was now on their way. And the Earth, once again, would find itself in the crossfire. The decision had been made, and now humanity had to face the cost. The battle for Earth was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The future was uncertain, but one thing was certain. Humanity would fight with everything they had. And they would not back down. As the war beasts and Earth's forces prepared for the coming storm, they stood together, stronger than ever. For they knew the truth. When it came to defending their home, they would not let anyone mess with humanity.